into Borneo. The biggest beneficiary, of course, is going to be Indonesia. The second biggest beneficiary is going to be Sabah and Sarawak. You know, the question will be, will Malaysia sell its hydro energy to Indonesia, and at what cost?
So beliau di Indonesia ini sangat rumit sekali dan padat banget ya di Jakarta, jadi beliau memilih di Malaysia, guys. Hai, hello guys, assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera semuanya guys ya. Apa kabar? Semoga selalu dalam keadaan baik dan semoga selalu dilimpahkan rezekinya. Amin amin ya robbal alamin. Oke guys, kali ini kita akan tunaikan lagi ya request daripada teman-teman semuanya, dan ini sangat cukup menarik ya bagi aku sebab ini ada salah satu orang luar yaitu foreigner. Dia tinggal di Malaysia itu lebih 30 tahun guys. Jadi seperti apa cerita beliau dan seperti apa pengalaman beliau, mari kita saksikan bersama-sama ya. Oke, ini channel daripada Max Karnov guys. Kita subscribe dulu. Everyone should know this about Malaysia. Jadi sama-sama kita akan saksikan, kita akan dengarkan. Let's go and play.
You internalize it. They say, okay, I'm going to go there, I'll be able to fly in, meet a few people, close a few deals and fly out. That's not going to happen. It doesn't work that way.
This is Nordin Abdullah. He's Australian but has been living in Malaysia for 30 years and speaks Malay fluently. In our chat he revealed what foreigners might do wrong dealing with Malaysians, how Singlish differs from Manglish, and what are the biggest misconceptions about Malaysia in the West. I'm Max, an entrepreneur and YouTuber. Let's go.
When you come to Singapore, you probably hear people speaking Singlish.
Yeah.
Like you speak
music to my ears.
Okay, you speak Malay and you kind of know how to speak English with kind of Malaysian vibe, Malaysian accent. What's the difference between Singlish and, like, can you call it
Manglish?
Manglish, right? Manglish. It's the.
I'm going to probably be in trouble with all your viewers. I don't know the difference. Maybe there's more Chinese words in the Singlish. Actually, I was having this discussion with someone the other day. It's actually more about the sentence structure than the words. So one is the words that you use. Actually, we hear the words that we use and we identify that very quickly. But I think it's more about the sentence structure. Many Malaysians speak 3 languages. Many Malaysians speak even 4 languages, but guaranteed 2 languages. So there's the grammatical structure of Mandarin or the grammatical structure of Malay and Tamil. You know, sometimes puts it in a different way. You know, you get into these wonderful arguments with Malaysians and Singaporeans on who owns nasi lemak and who owns chicken rice, who owns the word la. So I think this shared culture, this shared history and shared geographic reality all boils down to the language. So I when I'm in Singapore and I hear the laws and the law and all this kind of stuff, I just feel right at home. You know, I haven't left anywhere. It's comfortable. I think Malaysians and Singaporeans have an affinity for each other. They like to argue and deal with who owns what cultural heritage, and if there's a football match, you know, there's a bunch of rivalry. But apart from that, I think it's all in good faith.
As a native speaker, have you ever been bothered of how it sounds? Because you're native, and I asked some British dudes, and they're like, oh, at the beginning it was weird to my ears, how Singlish sounds, let's say.
Yeah, well, I mean, some of the British speak atrocious English. It depends on where they're from. I think those who are out here, I think, come to enjoy it. It may just be that ability to understand what they're saying first. So it's kind of like cultural, first contact kind of thinking, because after a few weeks I think you'll get used to, because you actually learn the language. If you ask me, a dialect is a language, so you will learn ways of communicating if you want to learn to communicate.
You can speak more your native English and then but then can you switch if needed? At what cases, what scenarios you would switch to very simplified Manglish?
Only if you'd find someone who doesn't really speak English properly, but because if that's the case, I would switch to Malay first. So or my terrible Mandarin. I would try that first. It's always that quintessential foreigner who speaks slower and louder the same words and expects them to understand exactly the same words. That doesn't work, guys. Just as a note to self, I think when it comes to Malaysia and Singapore, huge amounts of English efficiency. It's more of a cultural pleasure having multiple languages languages discussed and being able to have a discussion in multiple languages with each other. I'm sure the French and Italians who live on the border do this as well. I don't know. I mean,
is there some misconceptions about Malaysia? What people from abroad don't understand, don't get about Malaysia?
a lot of misconceptions. It's a Muslim country, and I think, oh, it's a very strict, like the Middle East or something like this. It's not like that. That's one thing. I think the business environment also a lot of misconceptions, because I think people maybe internalize it. They say, okay, I'm going to go there, I'll be able to fly in, meet a few people, close a few deals, and fly out. That's not going to happen.
Doesn't work the same.
It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Simply because it's more about relationships. And I think Malaysia, Southeast Asia, Asia in general, it's more about relationships. And if you are willing to spend the time to build relationships, I think that's where you see business come through.
What are do you think the main challenges for Malaysia like right now?
Malaysia economically has been a victim of its own success. It's kind of moved into this middle income area. One of those challenges now is it's no longer a destination for cheap labor. It's about driving productivity. It's about driving innovation. It's about driving that business access to ASEAN that really needs to happen. So I think in terms of, again, the cost equation, the productivity is there, it needs to improve. The cost in terms of like employing someone in KL is a lot cheaper than Singapore. So that positioning that as the kind of cost-effective, not cheap, but cost-effective innovation hub, cost-effective regional center, cost-effective landing point for businesses in ASEAN.
I talked with one of my guests about like future of Singapore. What's the future of Malaysia like within, let's say, next 10 to 10 years?
Malaysia as a country is an incredibly big place. You know, there's an ocean or a sea between one half of the country and the other. The development of Borneo, Sabah and Sarawak is going to be a different journey. If you ask me, it's a very interesting journey because they're going to be a hub for sustainable energy production because they've got so much water, and they're going to be in a more critical location because Jakarta is moving to Borneo.
They're moving capital.
You know,
Right,
so and that which capital? You know, where is that? That's in Borneo. The geopolitical center of ASEAN is going to shift north, and I think that is going to have an impact on the island of Borneo. The biggest beneficiary, of course, is going to be Indonesia. The second biggest beneficiary is going to be Sabah and Sarawak. You know, the question will be, will Malaysia sell its hydro energy to Indonesia, and at what cost? So some of that amazing stories will happen 5, 10, 20 years from now. Again, it's that kind of thing, being part of this kind of long-term re-engineering of a country, or long-term re-engineering or decolonization still of Southeast Asia, where you'll see the peninsula of Malaysia continue down that development path, where cities like Kuala Lumpur, cities like Penang and Johor Bahru will continue to become more convenient, easier to live in. Property prices will go up. Wages should also go up, but services should also improve.
People living in Singapore and Singaporeans, or like foreigners who become Singaporeans, some of them have plans to retire in Penang. Few people already told me that. It's like, oh, Penang like reminds me of Singapore. It's like developed, but also still pretty cheap. So I guess if prices go up, like less people go retire there.
No, because in 10 years' time, Singaporean income will also go up. So by the time they retire, that continuation will still be that beneficiary of development that Singapore has got. But if you ask me, Penang has a plan. Penang is going to be, there's a reason why it's called the Pearl of the Orient. It's in a very strategic location. There's massive tech investors in there. There's going to be increased jobs created there. There will be a bunch of interesting, and it's kind of, for me, I look at Penang as this kind of Renaissance city because of the UNESCO listing and that beautiful, there's a whole bunch of art and performing arts and art galleries and food, and you know, so it's a lifestyle that people want, and for Singaporeans it's affordable. For people coming from London, if you're talking about attracting global elites to retire, Singapore has in Southeast Asia a big bunch of global elites living here, or even that almost second tier global elites which are still millionaires but not quite billionaires. Retire to Penang.
What was the most challenging moment in your career, in your business, on your life in Malaysia through these 30 years?
So many. There's always another challenge. I think if you're not going through a challenging time, you haven't got the opportunity to grow. It shouldn't be easy. If it was easy, anyone could do it. And then,
That makes sense.
then it wouldn't be fun at all.
Do you have any regrets in life?
Regrets? Wow. Well, if you ask my wife, she never thinks I'm guilty. So there's to be guilty, and then I don't think so. I mean, mistakes are there to be made, and then I think the other thing is if you don't try something, you're never gonna know. You can say, oh, I could have done that better. I could have done this better. There's some like on the sporting field. I really sometimes I wish, like in a high school basketball game, I should have passed the ball. I should have shot it. I mean, like that would be the only thing, because otherwise I'm happy to give things a try. I think again that's the kind of attitude you've got to bring to coming to Asia is you've got to try. It's not where you're from, it's where you're going.
What's your biggest win in your life? What are you really proud of? I'm sure it's a lot, but something that you can share.
For me, my biggest wins actually are not mine. They're other people's. And I really, as cliche as it sounds, I like helping my team get to where I'm going, whether it's my team in the office or my first team is my family and my kids. So I love it when I see my kids do well. That is a reflection on me. I did well in high school was the basketball. We won the Asian championship or something. Although we've done that, but it's actually I much prefer to see the kids do well.
Is it your personality, or like Malaysia shaped you this way, you think?
I don't know. I mean, my personality has been shaped by Malaysia, so it's obviously part of it. But I love sports when I was in Australia, a mixture of both.
What was your best decision in life?
The best decision in my life is to wake up this morning and keep going. And I continue that attitude every day. I think it's when you think that you're done, then you're done. If you stop, you're dead. If you go backwards, you're dead. So the way is forward. It doesn't mean you can't take a break. It doesn't mean you have to be like 110% every day. There's ups and downs, there's ebbs and flows. But it's the knowledge of knowing that you've got to continue. And I think that's the positiveness that you need to bring into the thing. And then at the same time, you need to temper that with patience. Sometimes it just doesn't go your way. Sometimes you learn that the reason why it didn't go your way is because you weren't ready for that yet. And you may find out 5, 10, 20 years later. And it's happened to me many times. It's like, oh, now I know why I didn't get that thing last time because I wasn't ready for it. But now I am. So keep going.
Let me show you some magic. If you click on this video,
guys ya, itu ya pengalaman orang Australia ternyata guys ya, orang Australia, dan dia pernah tinggal di Singapura ya, tapi dia memilih untuk pindah tinggal di Malaysia dan itu sudah 30 tahun guys. Jadi sangat luar biasa ya, dan dia sudah bekerja bisnis di Malaysia ya, sebab kalau kita ikutkan ya, gaji orang itu daripada Singapura itu lebih mahal gitu loh ya. Jadi lebih murah di Malaysia, kalau nak murah lagi di Indonesia guys. Tapi beliau di Indonesia ini sangat rumit sekali dan padat banget ya di Jakarta, jadi beliau memilih di Malaysia guys. Dan untuk pengetahuannya 10 ataupun 20 akan datang itu di Sabah Sarawak akan lebih maju lagi ya, sebab memang dia tempatnya strategis ya. Dan banyak juga orang-orang miliarder ataupun boleh dikatakan elit global gitu ya, itu lebih suka tinggal di Pulau Pinang guys. Ternyata aku baru tahu nih ya, sebab kalau di Singapura itu mungkin kos sara hidup di sana kan mahal banget ya, bahkan rumah harga dia pun memang mahal gila lah ya di sana. Dan ternyata banyak juga yang pindah ke Pulau Pinang ya. Pulau Pinang ini tempatnya adalah strategis banget dan di situ kaya akan budaya ya. Contohnya ini adalah warisan dunia juga ya, sebab UNESCO gitu loh guys ya. Dan untuk foodnya itu juga bervariasi ya, banyak sekali makanan di sana. Dan banyak lah ya yang memilih hidup di Pulau Pinang ternyata guys. Ini aku baru ngeh ya. Jadi bagi orang Pulau Pinang macam mana guys, silahkan komen di bawah ya. Bagi anda pandangan orang putih ini ataupun orang Australia ini seperti apa guys ya. Menurut aku sih untuk kedepannya Malaysia akan tetap eksis ya, tetap berjaya guys ya, sebab ini Malaysia sudah maju dari dulu lagi. Ini hanya untuk mempertahankan, mungkin nanti kalau ingin dibangun lagi perkilangan ataupun prospek yang lebih bagus itu mungkin di Sabah Sarawak lah ya. Sebab kalau kita lihat di Semenanjung ini kan ini guys ya, Kuala Lumpur sudah maju, Johor Bahru juga sudah maju pesat guys ya. Dan maksudnya dari hujung ke hujung itu sudah maju gitu loh ya. Mungkin akan merambah ke Sabah Sarawak, tapi saya pun tak tahu. Planning kerajaan pasti lebih baik lagi ya guys ya. Pasti akan ada plan lah yang lebih untuk meningkatkan perekonomian di Malaysia ya. Sebab kalau diikutkan, Malaysia ini kan udah tahap bagus ya guys ya, dari dulu sudah mempunyai mempunyai gedung-gedung yang tinggi dan banyak juga pelabur asing masuk. Tapi kali ini aku lihat guys ya, Perdana Menteri Malaysia Anwar Ibrahim ini sudah pergi ke sana kemari gitu loh ya. Kalau kita lihat di berita ini ada pergi ke Washington baru-baru ini ya, itu untuk mencari pelabur katanya, untuk melabur di Malaysia guys. Jadi semoga aja Indonesia Malaysia ini semakin maju bersama ya. Kalau di Indonesia sekarang ini sudah cukup maju pesat ya di bawah kepimpinan Bapak Presiden Jokowi. Tapi sayang sekali ini sebentar lagi sudah habis masa jabatannya guys ya, dan harus ada pemimpin baru lagi. Kita pun tak tahu, semoga aja pemimpin yang baru ini nanti kelak menjadi penerus lah ya, penerus Bapak Jokowi agar lebih maju lagi Indonesia ini. Sebab kita ini negara tetangga, contohnya adik-beradik ya, adik-beradik guys. Jadi serumpun, alangkah lebih baiknya kita saling berjabat tangan, kita saling maju bersama agar negara luar respect kepada negara kita ya, dan bisa jadi macan Asia guys. Harapannya seperti itu ya. Jadi apa pandangan korang, silahkan drop komen di bawah. Bagi aku sih orang bule aja berbangga ataupun pengen tinggal lebih lama lagi di Malaysia. Jadi bagi orang Malaysia harusnya beruntung banget dan bersyukur banget duduk di bumi bertuah Malaysia yang berbilang kaum, nak mencari makanan apa aja itu ada. Itu aku menarik banget ya guys. Jadi makanan itu surga makanan lah boleh dikatakan, segala jenisnya itu ada, dari Arab, dari Cina, dari Melayu contohnya, itu kaya dengan budaya dan juga kaya dengan makanan tradisional, itu luar biasa, respect. Jadi mungkin sekian dulu ya guys ya untuk reaction kali ini. Terima kasih yang sudah klik video ini dan menonton sampai habis. Jumpa di video selanjutnya guys. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace, love and respect from Indonesia. Ciao.